This is the Bryan Hyde Show.
Well, hello there, and welcome back. Or maybe I should welcome myself back. Thanksgiving week was awesome. Wouldn't change a thing, but man, I'll tell you what, it felt like 3 Saturdays, one right after another, starting about midweek. And I'm still trying to catch up. I feel like I lost my momentum 100%. And, of course, I took a few days off from doing the show. Part of that was filling in for my friend Bill Cawley on his radio show. And I love to do that. Bill is very generous and kind to ask me to fill in. And it's a good experience to get me out of my cave and, out into the world and to kind of sit and reminisce, dip my toes in those fond memories. I can't believe this month it will be 40 years since I started in radio. I know. Crazy stuff. Just a kid out of high school. Had the possibility of getting hired. They said, well, come on down. We'll have you read a few things, record you, and see how you sound. And we'll train you, and if it works out, maybe we'll hire you. So they did. And here I am, 40 years later, still trying to figure out if that's what I want to do when I grow up. Actually, a lot has changed over the years, and radio's not what it was. But I will say this, it's been a wonderful means of communication. I'm very thankful for the opportunity I have to sit behind this microphone on a regular basis, and I will do my best to make it worth your time to listen to this show. That is my promise to you. So let's dive right in. I know that the thing that's on just about everybody's mind right now is boy, what a surprise, Joe Biden pardoned his son Hunter. And I'm going to mention this just in passing, okay? Politics is not the most important thing, but this one is telling, if only for, well, there's a couple things you can learn from it. Number one, the time period for which Hunter has been pardoned very closely mirrors the time period at which Ukraine went off the rails and became essentially a money laundering organization for members of the United States government, including one Joseph R. Biden. Well, are you reading more into this than there is? Possibly. It's possible I am. But the truth of the matter is the corruption that took place, basically Brandon, let's go Brandon, has just pardoned himself by pardoning his son for that period of 2014 to December 1st of this year, saying that any offenses he committed against the U.S. are fully forgiven, and this includes, it includes a lot of different things. And I want to just play a couple of clips for you. The other thing that came from this was we also learned that the press will lie to us over and over again about whether or not, Biden would do a certain thing. In fact, I'm going to play for you right now. This is a clip of Karine Jean-Pierre, White House press secretary, on 4 separate occasions denying that Joe Biden would pardon his son. I believe her words are absolutely not, but you listen and decide for yourself.
But from a presidential perspective, is there any possibility that the president would end up pardoning his son?
No. Well, I just said no. I just answered.
The president would not pardon or commute the sentence for his son, Hunter. I just want to make sure that is not going to change over the next 6 months. The president's saying he would not.
It's still a no. It's still a no.
It will always be a no.
It's still a no. It will be a no. It is a no. And I don't have anything else to add. Will he pardon his son? No.
His son, Hunter, is also up for being sentenced next month. Does the president have any intention of pardoning him?
We've been asked that question multiple times. Our answer stands, which is no.
President Biden says that he's not going to pardon his son, Hunter. Is he going to ask Donald Trump to do that?
I don't have anything else to share about that. I'm not going to go down a rabbit hole on this. I've been very clear. The president's been very clear when we've been asked this question.
But from a presidential perspective,
what a bunch of liars. I mean, wait, no. Actually, let me share this with you. Here is the big bunch of liars who said, oh, of course he would never do that. Check this out.
Presidential promise to put the law before a family.
I said I abide by the jury decision. I will do that. and I will not pardon him.
Letting the world know that he will not wipe away the decision of 12 of his son's peers.
Was asked directly, and he has said he wouldn't pardon his son if he gets convicted.
Let's wait and see what happens if he loses.
Yeah, but he said it.
He's going to get pardoned by his dad. There's no question about that.
The president has ruled out pardoning his son.
Major commitment from the president, accepting the outcome of the trial and also pledging not to pardon his son.
So the challenge for him is really to continue to live up to his values when it was really personal, and he did that today.
It seems like a pretty normal, straightforward answer, but it takes new weight when we see what Trump is saying about the outcome of his trial, what we're hearing from other Republicans who say they don't accept the jury's verdict here in New York.
The contrast is profound. To sit there and say, well, I'm not going to intervene in the legal process, and I wouldn't pardon my son. One side, Democrats and Joe Biden protecting the justice system. And on the other, Republicans and Trump protecting Trump.
Yeah, funny how that worked out. But anyway, there you have it, a couple of illustrations of just how off the rails the U.S. government has become. It's a crazy time. And over the long weekend, some really interesting things took place. The war in Syria, which has been a proxy war for a number of different nations, including Iran, Russia, Turkey, the U.S. I'm trying to think who else might be involved there, but it has come unpaused and has flared into a full-grown regional conflict. And who knows? That might be the place it kicks off. Not in Ukraine, but we're standing on the brink right now, and I don't say that to be scary or dramatic or to cause a thrill of fear to run up your spine. I'm just trying to be very realistic. Things seem very calm right now, and trust me, I'm enjoying that. I'm seeing gas prices a little lower than they've been. I'm seeing plenty of food in the stores, and seems like relatively things are kind of calm, and I appreciate that. But my gut says, don't count on it lasting. And more importantly, do not put your faith in political saviors. Don't do it. You will be so disappointed if you do. All right, couple things here I want to jump into in my show notes. Okay, I'm going to point out the article of the day. I'm just going to point you toward it, but I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. Here's a question for you. Would we, the United States of America, lose a war with Russia? I know the news media, telling the establishment line would say, of course not. Greatest, most strongest, most impressive, most awesomest military in the world. And then the chest beaters over at AR15.com, they'd be saying the same thing. Never, never, never. But let's remember that the media establishment has lied and lied and lied, as well as the political establishment. And if you want to, if you are willing to suffer a bit of discomfort, I'm including a link in my show notes at thebryanhydeshow.com. This is for December 2nd, 2024. Would we lose a war with Russia? And for people who think, well, everything has stayed exactly the same since we decisively won World War II, which, by the way, was a declared war. So there's kind of a difference there. Everything we've been involved in since hasn't been anything close to a peer-to-peer kind of conflict. And I know by pointing this out, by casting some doubts upon those official pronouncements, to some people this means I'm hopelessly compromised by Russian misinformation. Or I may be seeing a different angle on this that just isn't being talked about by the same people who have made a habit of lying to us about pretty much everything. So there's that. I'm asking you to consider it for yourself. I hope you'll read the article. I know it's not an easy read. This is like when a friend invited me to read The Real Lincoln by Thomas DiLorenzo. This was 20, 25 years ago. And I read that book, and it was so hard to read because it described a side of Abraham Lincoln that was very different from that cartoonish, lionized character that I had grown up believing. I thought Lincoln was one of our greatest presidents, and, he had saved the Union, and he, ended slavery and all this kind of stuff. And you get a very different picture when you look beyond what the approved court historians are teaching. And yeah, you'll get some pretty funny looks too. In fact, that's what I'm going to talk about next. You will find yourself out of step with society in one way or another if you actually do your own research. If you are willing to put in the effort and the thinking to examine original sources and to think beyond the lines of that 3x5 index card that Tom Woods describes of what we're allowed to have opinions on. That's when we're required to become transitional characters. And I'm going to point you toward this article. This is from my friend Destry. Oh, man, he is such a good guy. He has been through a lot of struggle and growth over the last 20 years, but he is one of the truest examples of a person who has been refined by those challenges and is just this prolific writer. He writes at ironcountynews.org. The subheadline here is The Voice of the People. And the articles he writes are so on target. So I hope you'll consider looking at it for yourself. And who knows, if you want to send a few shekels his way to help him with his writing involvement, that would probably be a wise thing to do. But let's talk about being a transitional character. And I'm going to suggest that this is something that you and I have been offered as an opportunity because of this unique period of history in which we are. Yeah, you thought it was scary talking about war with Russia? No, this is the real scary part. Because you and I don't have a whole lot of influence or a lot of say in where the neocons seem to be taking us as far as they're trying to plunge us headfirst into World War. But this one, we have absolute say. Would you step up and be a transitional character? Someone who chooses to break generational curses, whether it be at the family level, the cultural level, or the societal level. As Destry points out in this article, being a transitional character is a profound and courageous role. And it doesn't imply condemnation of previous generations. What it implies, though, is that some inherited patterns shaped by culture, society, or family norms lead us down harmful paths. Someone at some point has to redefine what's possible for future generations. And the catch here is that usually comes at great personal cost. So here are a few examples of what he's talking about. Understanding the past but not condemning it. This is why it's, you need courage to face the past and see it as it is. You don't have to change the name on every school or every road that may be affiliated with something that was disagreeable. Look at the past, learn from what happened, take what worked, learn from what didn't. Destry writes, previous generations may have perpetuated unhealthy patterns, not out of malice, but due to their own lack of awareness, resources, or societal norms. Transitional characters honor their ancestors' strengths while recognizing the need for change where harm has occurred. Put another way, I think it was C.S. Lewis who talked about this, every generation has its own blind spots. We certainly have ours. And trust me, we're going to hear about it in the years ahead. We look back on other generations. How could they have supported Jim Crow laws? How could they have supported this? How could they have supported that? Well, they had their blind spots, and we have ours. So rather than condemning them for their short-sightedness, learn from it and maybe try to be a little more aware of what we're doing that likewise indicates a sort of blindness. Also, he talks about healing trauma. Breaking generational cycles involves facing deeply rooted pain and trauma, often buried or normalized within the family system. It requires self-awareness, therapy, and resilience to confront these issues and choose a new path. Then there's this next one. This is a big one. Creating a new legacy. Transitional characters strive to replace cycles of dysfunction with healthier behaviors, communication, and relationships. Now, this might mean setting boundaries, prioritizing emotional well-being, or rejecting destructive traditions. And from here, he talks about standing alone for a greater purpose. This is the hard part. This is the part where most people are like, yeah, no, that's not for me. Because they know they're going to stand out. So we start with going against the grain. And Destry writes, challenging entrenched family or societal norms often leads to resistance or alienation. Transitional characters may feel isolated as they redefine what family, love, and respect look like. Then there's prioritizing the future. The driving force is often the well-being of their children or future generations. They're willing to endure discomfort or estrangement to create a safer, more loving environment for their families. That's tough. I've seen people who become estranged from their families for the sake of they knew they were doing the right thing. And it wasn't easy. And I'm sure they take a lot of blame that really isn't fairly being laid at their feet. This is why it takes courage to do this. Here are some of the traits of transitional characters. Resilience. They endure the emotional weight of breaking away from unhealthy patterns. Compassion. They seek healing not only for themselves, but for those who came before them and those who come after. That's a whole subject for another show right there. I know it may sound kind of weird, but as I have delved into family history, and especially as I've watched my son David delve into family history, we have made it a point to try to find and learn and share the stories of family members who died long ago. And if you don't resonate with this, I get it. You know, it may sound really weird and mystical to you, but as he has done this and as I have participated in it, I not only sense a stronger connection to them, even though they are departed, but I sense that there is a healing, an intergenerational healing that's taking place. I can't explain it. It's a feeling, man. It is. But it's as real as anything I've ever felt. Anyway, I would just say don't be so quick to dismiss it as well. It doesn't really do anything. Next is vision. Transitional characters see beyond immediate challenges to the long-term benefits of their actions. They refuse to perpetuate harmful cycles, even if it requires significant sacrifice. That's strength. And what's the impact of breaking generational curses? Well, for the children, they benefit from a nurturing, supportive environment free of dysfunction, at least the dysfunction of previous generations, and they grow up with tools to thrive emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. Now, for society, families that prioritize healing and growth contribute to stronger, healthier communities, and transitional characters are the seeds of change, cultural change, challenging and reshaping harmful societal norms. Destry writes, being a transitional character is an act of love and bravery. It's about choosing a path of healing, growth, and transformation, even when it means standing alone. These individuals honor their family's past while creating a brighter, healthier future for those who follow. They're proof that cycles of pain can end and that generational curses can be replaced with legacies of resilience, love, and strength. Now, I'm including this article in my show notes today at thebryanhydeshow.com, and I hope that you'll take a look at it. And I hope that you'll consider the ways in which you can be that transitional character. I'm just going to come right out and say it. The fact that you listen to this program, which is not well known, it is not widely distributed, it is not on the lips of everybody who's in with the in thing, but the fact that you are hearing these words likely means that in some degree you're already out of step with society. And I mean that as a compliment. That's a good thing. I'm going to take it one step further, though, and I'm going to suggest that the reason you're out of step is because God has put his finger on you and is willing to help you to become that transitional character who bravely leads in a better, more productive direction. You recognize, you correct the divergence between the inherited practices and customs that aren't productive and what's really right, just, and what's aligned with eternal principles. That means you got to be willing to evaluate traditions and cultural norms and societal systems critically, often exposing flaws that have been normalized and accepted by others. It's not about rejecting the past entirely, but learning from it, discerning what's harmful or out of alignment with truth, and then charting a new course for the future. And here's the kicker. You don't have to do it all by your lonesome. If you will go about it and humbly ask for God's help, I can promise you that help will be there. So, something to think about. One last article that I'm going to point you toward. This is from Michael Herman. And this is one of those quiet stories that also broke over the long holiday weekend. And that was the stealthy debanking of Donald Trump and a number of his family members. By debanking, I mean that he was contacted by several banks and told, we will no longer handle your money. I guess they give you a cashier's check and send you on your way. I've talked a lot about how money becomes a mechanism of control on this program. Might be something you want to keep in mind. By the way, I'm going to be talking with a gold and silver expert by the name of Franklin Sanders coming up on Wednesday's show. I hope you'll stick around for that because I bet you he has a few things to say about where that debanking trend might be headed. Check out my show notes at thebryanhydeshow.com. This is for December 2nd, 2024.
This is The Bryan Hyde Show.